It's like, in North America, we had the great Chacoan civilization that was our version of the Mayan or Aztec or Toltec groups down in Central America. I mean, we had this great civilization in the American Southwest centered around what are today the Chacoan National Park ruins, with a civilization that spread over probably 50,000 square miles and included hundreds of small hamlets and a central city, Chaco, that was sort of like the Vatican. I mean, there were priests who lived there most of the year, priests who, through the history of Chaco, inherited generation after generation their position. There's a fascinating archaeological site at Chaco that shows 14 burials in one room. 9 of those burials span the entire history, the 300-year history of Chaco. Every one of those 9 is related to one another through a female line, the mitochondrial line. And each of the 9, present from the start of Chaco to the end of it, from about 900 to about 1200, has a genetic abnormality, a 6th toe on one foot.
Whoa.
So these were the people who were regarded as the priests of the place. And so a couple of times a year, usually at the solstices, they would have these big celebrations, and 40,000 people would flock into Chaco and observe the solstices and do ceremonies and, no doubt engage in all sorts of epic nightlife too. But over time, over 300 years of time, drought and a local overuse of resources, and also, this is kind of the famous story of Chaco. What really sort of happened to Chaco is that the priests were promising all of their followers that they could make it rain in the desert, because this was an agriculture had finally come to North America. And we reached a point when droughts began to strike and the priests couldn't make it rain, at which point all their followers basically abandoned their religion. And the archaeologists who have gone in have sort of pointed out that so it kind of looks as if a disparity in lifestyle must have contributed, because the priests and the priestly class, they were the ones that were getting to eat all the protein from the deer and the antelope. As a result, their skeletons are 3 or 4 inches taller than all the peasants. They lived longer. Their children got past the age of 5 much more easily. And so there is speculation about Chaco that the disparity in wealth, followed by the inability of the priests to deliver and make it rain, is what caused this civilization to collapse when the peasant class basically rose up and overthrew it.
Wow. That's so fascinating, because that seems like that just happens with humans. When humans get into a position of power, they want to maintain it and tighten up the grips on everybody else. They want rules for them, but not for everyone else. They want to have different privileges. We're dealing with this like literally right now.
Well, sure. It shouldn't surprise us, I guess.
It shouldn't surprise us.
Human nature has been the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably been the same for 3 million years.
But it's just so fascinating when you see it manifesting in this ancient culture, and the people wise up and go, "You can't make it rain."
Yeah.
And then they eventually get sick of giving these people all their deer.
Yeah.
Are there images of this particular site that Jamie could find? We could see what it looks like?
Yeah, if you just punch up Chaco Canyon Historic National Park, you'll find the major site, and I've got, of course, photographs of all this in the book, but the major site is called Pueblo Bonito, Bonito.
And so how long did their civilization thrive for?
For about 300 years.
Just like us.
Yeah, just like just like us.
It's a cycle.
With a disparity of wealth that produced Yeah.
Unless you have authoritarian dictatorship.
Yeah. Here you go.
You can get people to do whatever the fuck you want and you keep things going.
So that's
Look at
Pueblo
that.
Bonito. And so you'll
Wow.
notice the caption there, did women control the bloodline, which speaks to what I was just telling you a minute ago. Out of those burials in this central room in this structure, they all, 9 of the 14 buried there were all related to a single woman who was at Chaco at the founding of this civilization.
Wow. Now, is there an artist rendering or representation of what it must have? Look at that. That looks incredible.
Yeah, there is. The National Park Service, I know, has done one on some of their brochures of what it looked like originally.
See if you can find anything like that, Jamie, an artist rendering of what it looked like. It's wild stuff. And so what
Yeah.
years was this again?
Basically 900 to 1200.
Wow. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
They built 400 miles of roads, by the way. And they built their roads straight arrow across the landscape. I mean, they didn't swerve around mesas or buttes or so yeah, this would have been what Pueblo Bonito looked like in, as you see, AD 1100.
I like how they have that one tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
When they first settled the area, it was covered in a pinyon juniper vegetation, but almost all those trees disappeared over the life of Chaco because these people were farming the classic Mexican cultivar complex, corn, beans, and squash, all of which require fires to prepare. And so when you have a food dish that requires you to build a fire to prepare it, and you're in an area with a limited resource of possible wood, over time, a civilization of that size almost completely obliterated all the surrounding vegetation.
No.
And
With stone axes.
yeah, sure. I mean, it's yet another example of human
Yeah.
nature that's always been in place. And, you know, we tend to be so self-centered or living in our own heads that we think all these things, this just applies to us.
Right.
But these kind of things, living for status, acting in a way that separates you from the lowly peasants of the world. I mean, this is ancient. And we have always figured out ways to do it, ways to distinguish ourselves. And those kinds of things have often led to, serious problems in human history.